Harper caught it somehow.
Cowboys OT is brought to you by Geico. 85 years of savings and service. Sleep Number, the Sleep Number 360 smart bed, helps everyone from parents to pros improve their performance through quality sleep. Only at a Sleep Number store. And NFL Game Pass. You'll never miss a game again. Enjoy full and condensed game replays from Week 1 to the Super Bowl.
The Dallas Cowboys travel all the way back from a double-digit deficit in the second half, but fall at home on Thanksgiving to the Las Vegas Raiders thanks to a 29-yard Daniel Carlson field goal to win it in overtime. 36-33, the final from AT&T Stadium, and we break it all down for you here on Cowboys OT. This is also the first word presented by Dr. Pepper. And gentlemen, we have got a lot to talk about in the 3-point loss to the Raiders at home. The Cowboys now fall to 7-4 on the 2021 season. Barry Church, Nate Newton, Isaiah Stanback. I'm Kyle Youmans as I'm alongside three former Cowboys. Nobody better to break this down than you three, in my opinion, because there's a lot of places that you can go. You can talk about the defense giving up 36 points, the offense having their struggles throughout the game, the special teams and the miscues there, but also some of the wins on special teams, a 100-yard kick return from Tony Pollard. So, Isaiah, I start with you. When you look back at this Thanksgiving matchup, what's going to stand out to you?
14 penalties, 166 yards. That's what stands out to me. That takes you out of that takes opportunities off the table for you. There's so many third down situations. I think there were four third downs, I believe, where a penalty occurred, a defensive penalty occurred, defensive pass interference specifically, especially on A. Brown, that took away our opportunities to get off the field. And that ultimately decided this game. There were other factors, but those defensive penalties destroyed us.
Anthony Brown was solid up until this point. He had a terrible day, and it cost him. 4 times he had penalties. We know that Tyron Smith came back and was a little bit rusty, but he gave up a sack and had a couple of key penalties. A lot of times it's not that you get so many penalties. It's when these penalties happen. You take yourself out of field goal range, you take yourself out of the red zone, and you stop precious drives, and that's what this Dallas offense and defense done to themselves today.
Yeah, I'm with both you guys on this one. It was extremely sloppy with the penalty-wise, and it knocked them out of a lot of opportunities to score points. But to me, defensively, they gave up a lot of explosive plays. And I'm talking about in the passing game. I think they gave up 5 or 6 explosive plays. That's 20 yards or over on the pass play. And that's something that we haven't seen from this Cowboys team so far this season. They've had a good job of kind of keeping an umbrella, do that bend but don't break defense, and it's worked for them. But today, they met the Cowboy killer, Deshaun Jackson. I mean, this guy is 35 years old, but he's still able to blow the top off the secondary, and he did just that today, giving the Raiders the plays they needed to go ahead and get this victory. Overall, I think this one will hurt the Cowboys.
The Cowboys have been susceptible from a defensive standpoint of giving up the big play throughout the 2021 campaign. However, the Raiders haven't been a team this season that has capitalized on the big play. So that's something I think you have to look at in this game and say that's a missed opportunity from the Cowboys defensively. Now, it also gave confidence to that Raiders team early on as well. This is a team built on confidence. We talked about it in the pregame show as well. Isaiah, you talked about it all week. Early on, the Raiders had the confidence. Sure, that dwindled a little bit late, but ultimately it was enough to stick around for the win.
Yeah, the reason being because these guys have the personnel. This team is loaded full of established players, veterans, proven guys in this league that have gotten big contracts. Anywhere, you can talk about Crosby, you can talk about Ngakoue, you can talk about Trufant. All these guys started showing up later on in the game. You didn't hear Trufant's name until the end of the game when you actually needed him. And that's what we're talking about. When you allow these teams to stick around, now all of a sudden they start remembering who they were. Right? Sometimes we have these veterans that kind of fall back to just being, I'm just a guy out there. But then when you have these competitive, highly competitive games, such as today, when the whole world is watching, all of a sudden they perk their chest up a little bit, and now all of a sudden they have something to play for. And then we allow those guys to have that confidence because they were in this game.
Waller went out early in the first half, and all of a sudden, Renfro takes over. What you call him, the Cowboy killer, Deshaun Jackson, does this thing. And I was nervous about Renfro all week because he's a route runner, and route runners have proven it over our history to hurt the Dallas Cowboys. He came up with 134 yards, and like you say, D-Jack got us over the top, and he lived for that situation. So they took advantage of it, man, confidence, and they just kept rolling. Forget about the running game. Yes, sir.
Can't forget about that. And Cal, you were right on there. I mean, this is a game where the Dallas Cowboys should have come out here and pretty much stomped on the Raiders' neck out there, let them know that they didn't belong on the same field. But it started from the beginning. The Raiders took that formula, started fast, made the Cowboys do a 3-and-out. Then they went down the field the very next drive and scored 7 points off of it. You can't give a team that's overmatched like that confidence to think they can play with you on this field. And that's exactly what happened. It lasted the entire game, and the Raiders walked away with a W.
Cowboys have now lost 4 of their last 5 Thanksgiving matchups. So teams look at this as an opportunity to go into AT&T Stadium in front of the national crowd and get a win. And they've at least over the 4 of the last 5 games, they've converted in that fact. Let's take a look at some of the final stats before we take a break. 36-33, the final score. The Raiders up over 500 total yards. They're now 6-0 when they score at least 30 points. And the Cowboys giving up over 30 points for the first time since the Broncos game back a couple weeks ago. The Cowboys fall at home here on Thanksgiving. We've got plenty more to come here on Cowboys OT, as well as the first word presented by Dr. Pepper. We'll be back in a moment.
This segment is brought to you by Ashley Home Store, the official furniture store of the Dallas Cowboys.
Cowboys offensively took a little bit of time to get off the ground, but ultimately the stats look better than they had been over the last couple of losses for the Cowboys. 4 touchdowns did not turn the football over, at least in this ball game, though there were plenty of opportunities for the Raiders defense to get the Cowboys off the field, keep them out of momentum, and those third downs certainly playing a big role in the Cowboys' 3-point loss to the Las Vegas Raiders here on Thanksgiving. Back here with more Cowboys OT. Barry Church, Nate Newton, Isaiah Stanback. I'm Kyle Youmans. Isaiah, I'll start with you again here on this one. The offense, it really took till the second half to they finally found the rhythm. 2 100-yard receivers, as Michael Gallup has 106. Cedric Wilson goes over 100 yards for the first time in a couple of weeks as well. So ultimately, they found their rhythm, but it was a little too late at the end.
It was entirely too late. The first half, it was more of what was last week. Last week was inaccurate passes by Dak. It was drops offensively by our receivers. Ineffective on the running on the ground with our running game. We had 64 yards. This is our 4th time out of the last 5 games getting under 100 yards rushing. This is not the winning formula for the Dallas Cowboys, and this is something that they have to address, and unfortunately, they did not address it today.
You know, and add on to that, when Dak was sharp and got a few passes in there, then we had a holding. Or we had something else happen, or we had a drop ball. It just seemed like the communication of route running and doing the right thing at the right time is not there. They got to find a rhythm, and they got to hurry up and find a rhythm. The AFC West have answered all, have shown you the blueprint to get to the Dallas Cowboys, and that's make them one-dimensional. Whether Zeke is hurt or not, don't matter. What you have to do is find a way to create some plays.
Yeah, they were extremely rusty, especially in the first half. And what I don't like about this offense, it seemed not to be getting in a rhythm. We know when they're at the heights of their powers, they're extremely balanced versus the run and the pass. They give Zeke his carries, Pollard his carries. I think both of them ended up with, I think the total rushing yards was 64.
Yes.
And when you get that and you have only 64 yards rushing, we just haven't been able to get the dubs. When we're under 100 yards rushing, we just haven't been able to get the dubs. So I think as a whole, we got to get back to that more balanced approach because it wasn't out of the reach to where we had to just go throw all over the place. I think we need to get back to that balanced approach and get back to the heights of this offense.
Let me make a quick correction here. It's actually only the second 100-yard receiving game for Cedric Wilson in his career. The last one was week 3 of last season against Seattle on the road. Now, you mentioned the run game never got off the ground for the Cowboys. Tony Pollard had a huge kick return to keep the Cowboys within striking distance. But let's go back out to AT&T Stadium and hear from Ezekiel Elliott and what he had to say following the loss.
Zeke, was it related to your knee, or was it planned to kind of give Tony some run there in this game, or was that related to you still feeling that?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I feel all right, but it probably was.
Tough day for both of y'all, really, getting anything going. Was it an element of them focusing on it, or just what do you think about the run game overall today?
They got a good front. They did a good job up. They did a good job up front, and we just got to do a better job winning line of scrimmage.
Y'all talked about reestablishing offensive rhythm. What besides winning at the line of scrimmage needs to happen?
I think we just got to execute more. We got to make more plays, and
Zeke, how big was missing Amari and CD today.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. That's a lot of production. Those are, two of our best receivers. We all know the impact that they make. So, that's tough. But and we got the next man up mentality. We have a deep receiver room, and we just got to, go out there. And, we got to control what we can control. And, if we don't have those guys, we got to figure out how to get the job done without them.
What's it like playing the game when 166 yards of penalties are called against you?
It's choppy. It's tough to get a rhythm, and but I think just we got to be more disciplined. I think we got to, realize how they're calling games this year, and we got to adjust, and we got to, do a better job playing cleaner.
I believe that's a franchise record since the team has been around since 1960. Have you been a part of a game with that many penalties?
No.
Talk about it.
Hard to get into a rhythm. How different does a game feel when there isn't an established flow? Is it harder to focus or harder to kind of get into the feel of what the game's like?
It's hard to kind of get into a rhythm, but we just gotta figure out how to finish that game off. We were still in a position to win that ball game, and we just gotta figure out how to go get that win.
Y'all trailed for so long consistently throughout the game, then tied it late. What were the emotions at the end of the fourth quarter and overtime like?
We were ready. We were ready to go out there and do what we had to do. We made some plays. We got in it. We just weren't able to finish.
What did you think of Gallup, the way he stepped up in the fourth quarter?
Yeah, Gallup was super clutch today. Just those big catches were those last two drives. Those two catches he had, not easy catches at all either. So, MG's a guy that we've missed, but, he played his tail off today.
Zeke, has this team lost its swagger?
No.
We talked to y'all a lot about not getting too high during the win streak, losing 3 of the last 4. What's the key to not being too frustrated by that?
We just got to focus. We got to go get better. We got to go fix, what happened today and, become a better team by next week.
Did you think the Raiders were kind of daring you guys to try and beat them with the pass without CD and Amari? It looked like the Raiders were playing a lot of guys within 10 yards of the line.
They might have. They probably were. But, we still got to find a way to go win that football game.
I know we asked you about the knee earlier. You didn't play much in the second quarter before you had that touchdown late. Was that in result to the knee flaring up in the first quarter?
Yeah, I don't know.
What was the message from Coach McCarthy in the locker room after the game?
That's a tough one to swallow. We fought our tails off. We got to clean up those penalties. We got to realize how they're calling it this year, and we got to adjust and we just got to, figure out a way to win that football game.
How important is this stretch now where you guys get some time to rest your bodies, you get some guys back from injury and COVID, and just get right for this final December stretch?
That was very important. We got a lot of, we got 4 more division games left, in 6 weeks. So we definitely got to lock in, and those division games are always going to be tough. And we got to, get ready to close it out.
All right, thanks, Zeke.
Thanks, Zeke.
So you see the numbers there from Ezekiel Elliott, and really he didn't have any excuses at the same time. He said, we've got to figure something out on the ground. Now, I ask you guys, what has been the problem on the ground? Because this isn't just a 1 week, week 12, they didn't run the ball well sort of deal. This is going back to really week 6 and forward. They haven't run the ball the same.
We have not run the ball well at all. And I don't know what's going on since the break, but, it's been inefficient. It's been ineffective. And I don't know if it has anything to do with the fact that we're getting behind in games or in these competitive games, or I don't know if it has anything to do with the fact that we're having these penalties that keep putting us back into these second and long, third and long situations. But, 19 rushes minus the 1 rush that Dak had, and then versus 47 passes, that's not the resume. We did that week 1. We did that week 1. Right, and what was the result of that? The same as today.
We have not played consistent. Amari Cooper is a big difference in this run game. We have not had leads, and when we don't have leads, we favor to pass the ball a little bit more. So all of the above that you just talked about is the reasons the Cowboys are having these problems. Yeah, you have to figure it out. But you know what? Either scoring first or staying tied or close enough so that your offensive coordinator and head coach can feel comfortable with it. And, yes, we have to have a healthy offensive line.
Yeah, we got to have an O-line. That's where I think it starts. I mean, these guys right now, they're battling with a lot of injuries, but that's not an excuse at the end of the day because we've seen this team win without, its best option, which is Dak Prescott out there. So there has to be some type of continuity with the offensive line. These penalties are definitely killing us because it's putting us back in the holes, putting us behind the sticks, and we're not able to run to get out of that. So it's definitely putting us behind. But like you said, Isaiah, 19 carries, that's just not enough. We got the formula for success, and that's at least over 25 carries for both Zeke and Pollard combined.
You guys both bring up fantastic points about the run game and the offensive line getting back and healthy today. A little bit of a rotation. That was interesting in the first part of the game. But when we come back here on Cowboys OT, we address the defense. 33 points and over 500 yards allowed in the loss.
This segment was brought to you by Ashley Home Store, the official furniture store of the Dallas Cowboys.
The Dallas Cowboys fall at home to the Las Vegas Raiders, 36-33 in overtime. The Cowboys give up 36 points on defense, along with 500-plus yards. Let's take a look at some of the final stats defensively. They got after Derek Carr on multiple occasions, did not have the turnover that you thought. The ball was put on the ground one time. Derek Carr ultimately took care of the football when he needed to. He found the big play when he needed to. Hunter Renfrow steps up, 134 receiving yards. Deshaun Jackson with 102 receiving yards and a touchdown from 56 yards out. Ultimately, the Raiders had enough on offense to get the job done, Barry. But when you look at the defensive side, what are some of the things you'll circle and say this needs to get better heading into next week?
Well, definitely I got to go towards the secondary on this one because like I talked about earlier, this secondary and this defense as a whole has done a great job so far this year of keeping things under this umbrella, not giving up the huge big play out there. And today they met, like I said earlier, they met the Cowboy killer, Deshaun Jackson, and Renfrow out there as well. They were making explosive play after explosive play. And as a defense, that bend but don't break only works when you got keep these guys in front of you. So we got to fix that back in the secondary. But I am impressed with what I've seen with Micah Parsons. I mean, this guy, it's like he enjoys that moment. He enjoys the moment of having all the pressure on his shoulders and him having to make that play. So he's having an outstanding rookie season. But overall, defensively, we got to keep this thing in front of us. We can't let these guys go over the top like they did this game.
We got to be better. I said earlier, I think you have to be better versus these route runners, man. Renfrow ran the routes, man. After D-Jack blew the top off of it, before Waller went out, they blew the top off, took it, and now we let Renfrow just run. That comes down to you have to tackle. You have to tackle well. And I'm with you on that young Parsons, man. That's a different level, though. That's a different level.
I think it's two parts. I think when we're playing a lot of man-to-man coverage right now, whenever we take our shots to go after these quarterbacks and try to get some pressure on them, we're blitzing. I mean, a lot of times you're going double A gap, putting guys right in the middle of the offensive line and sending them straight in those gaps. Well, what happens when you do that is you leave a big vacancy right behind those guys across the middle. Guys run streaks, and you always have one route runner that comes across and gets easy plays like we saw with D-Jack, like we saw with Renfrow, like we saw with Waller. These guys are getting free reign opportunities, and we're either getting those plays or you're getting 4 pass interferences on you that are literally just like big plays.
Mm-hmm. During the first word of this show, the segment, the opening segment, how about the explosive plays that you talked about? 21 yards Jacobs had. Carr had a 22-yard run. You have 54 yards to Renfrow, 56 yards to Jackson. Jones had a 35-yard catch. Waller had a 21-yard catch. What changed from last week against Kansas City where you allowed just 19 points? You really shut down one of the better offenses in the NFL with Patrick Mahomes at the helm to this week, and how much credit do the Raiders deserve?
To be honest with you, even as well as our defense played last week statistically, I honestly think that Kansas City had a lot of drops. They were just not executing. So I'm not going to put all the responsibility on KC, but this team did not drop the ball, right? These guys were catching the ball. They were taking advantage of their opportunities, and that's exactly what the difference was today.
You got to tackle. Yeah, you have to tackle. A guy going to catch the ball in the NFL, but do you tackle him and stop him right where he's at that point? We didn't do that very well today. And, if you're going to take a shot at that ball, you got to make sure that you get it. And we didn't do that today. Yeah,
they didn't do that at all. And to me, the big difference was we let these receivers get off the line of scrimmage without any type of jam on them. Like, these guys had free releases out there. Deshaun Jackson, Zay Jones, Waller before he got injured. Nobody was putting hands on them. And when you give guys free releases like that, this team has speed, and speed kills, as we saw out there. They were able to get behind Brown, get behind Kearse, and for explosive plays. Last week, we did a decent job of getting guys' hands on them. This week, not so much.
Yeah, and that's something that the Cowboys are going to have to fix going into the game against against New Orleans, which is next Thursday. Not a short turnaround, a normal week for the Cowboys, and we'll talk about that when we come back with more Cowboys OT following the 36-33 loss to the Raiders.
Cowboys OT was brought to you by Geico, 85 years of savings and service. And by NFL Game Pass. You'll never miss a game again. Enjoy full and condensed game replays from Week 1 to the Super Bowl.
The Cowboys fall at home on Thanksgiving for the fourth time in the last 5 years. The Las Vegas Raiders get their first win against the Cowboys in over a decade. 36-33 the final score as the Cowboys fall to 7-4 here in the 2021 season. Final segment here of Cowboys OT. Barry Church, Nate Newton, Isaiah Stanback. I'm Kyle Youmans, and Isaiah, I'll start with you. If you are in the shoes of Mike McCarthy heading into this week of practice, the New Orleans Saints on the docket, on the road at the Superdome, what is your message to the team?
Go back and analyze yourself. Stop making the same mistakes that are hurting our team. That's every single individual on this team. What are you doing that's either contributing to a victory or contributing to a loss?
You know, depending on my personnel, I would be looking at it myself as a coach, too. How can I help guys get open a little bit better? If we're going in there with our third and second and fourth receivers, we have to do a better job of getting those guys open. We have to get them the ball in a better position, I think.
Yeah, to me, I'm looking at the coaches and the players. We got to develop some type of sense of urgency. You know, we can't go out there thinking that we can just step on the field, flip a switch, and get a W. It's not going to work that way. We've got to have more sense of urgency, keeping people accountable, and hopefully they do that for next week.
Really quickly here, Isaiah, in terms of getting guys back, this could be a big week for that. You could get CeeDee Lamb back, could get Amari Cooper back into the fold. Even DeMarcus Lawrence has activated his 21-day practice window. There are a lot of key pieces that could be back in the fold.
Absolutely need those guys. And we need those guys to come back and be effective as we expect them to be. They need to come in and not only perform on the field, but they need to perform as leaders on this team.
How big could that be for the Cowboys to get those defensive guys back?
It could be huge for this defense. Randy Gregory, D-Law off the edge, creating problems for the quarterback. Tips and overthrows, we'll get those with those two guys in there. We need them back in the worst way.
And then adding those guys with Micah Parsons, it could be something exciting building. But right now, Cowboys Nation a little bit frustrated, and for good reason. The Cowboys have lost 3 of their last 4, and they lose this one on Thanksgiving. Thanks for joining us here on this edition of Cowboys OT. We'll see you next week from the Star in Frisco.